What is up, Dolphins Nation? We are back with another Phins Forecast episode tonight. It's gonna be a great episode. It's gonna be a fun episode. It's gonna be the episode. I don't know about you guys. I've been waiting for a while now.
The big uglies.
We are getting into offensive line tonight, guys. So we're gonna get into all the players the Dolphins are going to be starting on their offensive line, maybe a couple of the backups, and what our expectation for the Dolphins offensive line is for this season. Now, look, I'm going to say, me personally, I think this is the key to the Dolphins' success and or failure in the 2025 season. It's just if they can get their stuff together, then I think this could be a successful season for the Miami Dolphins.
Say it again for those in the back, Keith.
Yes, absolutely. If they can get their shit together, then this could be a successful season for the Miami Dolphins.
Let's go.
But first and foremost, I'm going to introduce my co-host tonight. Josh, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I feel like I haven't seen you guys. It's only been a week and change. I feel like I haven't seen you in a month. It is wonderful to see both of you guys.
Yeah.
I will say this. This show is one that I had earmarked on my calendar, check marked on my iPhone. It popped up as a notification to get excited for at 8 a.m. this morning. I am super excited to talk big uglies in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball. I can't wait.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we have some positive things to say. We'll see though. We'll see though. Taylor, how you doing tonight, man?
Yeah,
delusional fan, I should say.
Yeah, everything Josh said, it feels like it has been 3 months since we talked. I'm excited to get into this show here today because this is something that Dolphin fans, including all of us here on the show, have talked about. Hey, Dolphins got to invest in the offensive line. They got to invest. And we'll get into the deep dive of how they've invested. But this has been off season where it does feel like this might be a good offensive line. Knock on wood.
Yeah, and I want to get into that here, Taylor, because, we've said pretty much all off season. It's not just me being this dead horse. It's been all of us, honestly. But we've said going into this all season that the Dolphins have to fix the offensive line. They have to keep Tua upright. They have to open up running lanes for their running backs. This offense, in my opinion, doesn't work unless they're running the ball effectively. So going into this all season, it was going into this all season, it was let's fix this offensive line. Before we get into doing this player by player, guys, I just want to get your thoughts on how you think the Dolphins did with this. How you think they did just revamping this offensive line. How do you feel about this offensive line as a whole? Taylor, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I actually really like what the Dolphins have done this offseason at offensive line. You look at what the bright spots were last year. Aaron Brewer, Austin Jackson until he got hurt, Teron Armstead, who put a he was always injured prone, especially with the Dolphins. Last year was the most available he's been, which is unfortunate considering how the season went.
Yeah.
But what I really like about the way this offensive line is settled is you have Patrick Paul. All the talent in the world, we'll get into it. It's all about putting it together. And in my opinion, getting a little bit of a dog mentality about him. Getting into a fight there. With the rest of this offensive line, that's not a problem. That is who they are. It's how they are wired. Aaron Brewer moved people last season.
Yeah.
Austin Jackson moved people last season. If you saw Jonah last year at Arizona, he lived to do it. If he wasn't bullying somebody across the line, he was not playing football.
Well, that's because he was on the bench, right? That was the only time he wasn't manhandling human beings.
The only time. He moved positions just to mess with the defense. But, yeah, man, I really like what this offensive line has become in Miami. It's not ideal, especially when we get to the depths and one player that a lot of Dolphin fans are not too thrilled with coming back. But considering what the team has been like the last few years and how they have yet to really invest in offensive line, this is actually a good start.
Yeah. I agree. Josh, what are your thoughts on this offensive line just as a whole?
Yeah, you know what? I love it because this is the first time already. We've been doing the show for 5 minutes, and I already disagree with something, which I love. Right? It creates friction, it creates conversation. I agree with you guys. I love where this offensive line is, but where I disagree with what was just said was that I think because of the way that our offensive line is structured, meaning we have the youth and the players in the positions that they should be at, it allows our depth to be where it should be. And what do I mean by that? Liam Eichenberg should not be starting, but what he could be is a relatively okay Swiss Army knife, right? Not great at anything, but okay at everything, kind of, right? You can plug him in at center, God forbid, for a couple snaps. If somebody needs to get rewrapped, you can plug him in on the right side, you can plug him in on the left side. Larry Borum should not be starting, but guess what? He's not starting. Right. I think it allows our depth to play where our depth should be playing, which is not starting, knock on wood. Right. And I've said this before on other shows. I've said this in our group chat. I've said it to other of my fellow Dolphins fans and friends of mine and family members of mine that are fans of the Bills and or the Patriots. I think this is the best offensive line that Miami has put in front of Tua in his tenure with Miami. As a whole, yeah. I understand, and I actually posted this somewhere on Reddit and got destroyed. Well, how can you say that? Because Teron Armstead isn't here. Yeah, I get that, right? But Patrick Paul got the stamp of approval, right? James Daniels is coming over and playing the position he should be playing at. Aaron Brewer is one of the better centers in the league. Savaiinaea is coming in with all the potential in the world. Now, he could be a bust. We don't know, right? But for all intents and purposes and everything that we've heard and read, he is excelling at the position, right? And we have Austin Jackson coming back from injury. If all of these, I know it's a lot of ifs right now, but if these players stay healthy and if these players stay in their positions, the sky's the limit. You know what I mean?
Well, to your point, Josh, too, with Patrick Paul, he's going to be one of the players that I'm probably going to be a little more hard on, but that's because I think he is so talented and he could be a really good left tackle in this league. It's just that I do feel like there's a bit of
the unknown.
I won't say false hope.
Yeah.
But like maybe a little bit of overfluffing how great he was. Like he was fine at parts last year. He was also bad at parts last year, particularly at right tackle.
Well,
but
which is not
where he should be playing, to your point, Josh. And that's where the thing that gives me a lot of, I guess, hope on this offensive line is, even if Patrick Paul ends up not being as great, there are 4 dogs right next to him that will go at least help him through. And also, I think they'll be able to possibly give him a little more of an edge to his game.
Well, I think he's a dog too. I mean, the dude's a mountain of a human, right? I mean, he's like 6'12" or something. Like, I mean, he's not really, but I mean, he's huge, right? And even if Patrick Paul isn't prime Teron Armstead or prime insert Laramie Tunsil or whatever, right?
Yeah, he just has to be decent. I
just don't want to hear his name because that means he's not making a mistake. I don't want to hear any of these names. Right. Yeah. In a perfect scenario, you hear their names because they're playing well. Oh, look who we paying. Look, Savaiinaea carry the guy into the end zone. Right. That's the good stuff. But if you don't hear their names, that's okay too. What we don't want is to hear their names a la Liam Eichenberg a couple of years in a row where it's like, oh, there's a hold. Oh, there's a false start. Oh, there's another hold that calls back a 75-yard touchdown. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to hear, right? And if these guys can just lock in their position and the football god shine down on us and say, okay, you know what? I've screwed you over the last couple of seasons. We're gonna let this offensive line play over 1,000 snaps together. I think honestly, the sky's the limit. I mean, look at what Tua did in 2023 with a worse offensive line, but one that was a little more healthy than it had been and than it was last year or a couple of years prior. He led the league in all kind of, not all, but a lot of major statistical categories, and we were the best offense in football. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it could. What I don't know is if it's copium or if it's or something else, right? So, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I think
that's what's exciting about it.
I think the biggest thing here, Josh, and you touched on it earlier, and I think this is going to be a word that's going to be coming out of our mouths, whether on purpose or just Freudian slips. This is going to be a word that's going to be coming out of our mouth a lot tonight. If the word if Austin Jackson stays healthy, if Patrick Paul takes the next step, if Jonah Savaiinaea,
There you go.
I didn't nail it.
You covered it.
Third try.
That's all that matters. You know.
If he hits the ground running as a rookie, if Aaron Brewer builds off of his promising first season with the Dolphins, if James Daniels recovers from his Achilles injury, there's a lot of ifs, and then the overarching if on this offensive line, if they can stay healthy, if they can pull what the Buffalo Bills did last year and stay healthy as a unit, as a group, and grow together as a unit and as a group.
It's not like over 1,300 snaps played
for
all of their starters, like insane.
Yeah. Even the Philadelphia Eagles last year, they had guys miss a little bit of time here and there, but for the most part, they were breaking in a new center, they were breaking in a new right guard, and they were able to have that continuity along the offensive line. And I think that led them to the Super Bowl. And I think, you see the Bills offensive line, they're probably a top 5 unit right now, not because they're the most talented, but because they have some of the best continuity along the offensive line. And
Josh Allen also helps.
Well, yeah, Josh Allen. Absolutely. So,
well, also, sorry, Keith, I thought you were done there, but
no, it's all right. Bad.
We can get into like the level of investment the Dolphins have had into the offensive line in the Mike McDaniel era in like another video or something. But the thing to me that you brought up, like the unknown, the if, and all that stuff, that is something that I really think could be like, you talk about the 2023 season with Connor Williams, Teron Armstead, Austin, and by that point, we kind of knew who all these people were. Robert Hunt, we kind of knew where their cap was. With this team here, I don't know what the cap is. I don't know what Jonah's cap is. I don't know what Patrick Paul's
Pro Bowler.
is. Like,
Pro Bowler.
I kind of know what James Daniels is.
Pro Bowler.
At this point.
Everyone's a Pro Bowler.
Look, as much as I like James Daniels, I'm not sure.
Super Bowl winning offensive. No, I'm kidding.
But there's a lot of unknown here that I'm really liking.
Yeah.
But it's not just unknown. It's also, hey, it's not a 7th round pick starting. You have 2 second-round picks on this line. Premium investments. That's what I would really like to see on this offensive line. And that's where it's like this 2025 lineup. Sure, it's not as like top heavy, but to your point about that Bills offensive line, that was the problem with the 2023 lineup. They were great in week 1, but eventually the players started getting injured. Connor Williams got injured, and it just all started to fall apart.
And that's another thing that we need to get into. That's something we need to mention right here and now. The last 3 seasons, one injury has derailed this entire offensive line as a group. In 2022, it was Teron Armstead. Teron Armstead went down. The entire offensive line seemed to implode. Last 2023, it was Connor Williams. Connor Williams went down, and the entire offensive line again seemed to.
And Robert Hunt. I believe he got hurt too, right?
But Robert Hunt came back, and they still weren't a good unit without Connor Williams. Last year, Austin Jackson. And Austin Jackson, I think we can all agree, is not a great right tackle. He's a good right tackle.
I disagree.
I think, well, that's something we can get into when we talk about Austin Jackson. I think Austin Jackson is a good right tackle. I think he is a serviceable right tackle, but I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's a Pro Bowler. I don't know. I think he's good. I think he's a good offensive tackle. And yet, when he went down with a knee injury last year, the Dolphins couldn't run the ball anymore.
That's kind of what I was alluding to, right? And I said it horribly. You just said it perfectly. You articulated what I was trying to say, is that it allows our depth to be where they're supposed to, right? Because what was happening, what caused a lot of the derailment was shifting and pulling. I mean, I think I forgot what the number was, but we were top 2 or 3 in the league last year, starting different combinations of offensive people or offensive linemen, right? And that consistency is key. I mean, Keith, you know this, right? As a former adept offensive lineman, right, in your life, right, and somebody that loves the trenches.
Yeah,
I would take continuity over top end talent, right? At least me. You still have to be good, right? You still need to be able to play the positions that you're slotted into. But if you can be healthy for the length of the season, I would take that over a top, like 2 Pro Bowlers and a bunch of scrubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think always goes under the radar, and it's something that we've mentioned a lot on the show, is that we went from being one of the top 5 or 6 oldest teams last year to one of the youngest teams this coming season and for this upcoming season. And why is that important to mention when we're talking about injuries and continuity? It's because the younger players I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 next year. Actually, I'll be 40 in a handful of months. Jesus. Now if I cough the wrong way, I pull my back out, right? Yeah. When I was in my 20s, I could jump off a roof, sprain my ankle, and blow my hip out, and I'd be back running the following week. Yeah. Those are obviously exaggerations, but what I'm trying to get at from my point, is that even if somebody like Savaiinaea goes down or somebody like Patrick Paul goes down, their bounce back is a lot quicker because their bodies are younger. Right. Yeah. And there's a lot to go with. There's a lot to say about that, right? We're not starting a geriatric offensive line. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, somebody mentioned, well, how can they be a better offensive line without Teron Armstead? I'm not saying that they're not going to miss Teron Armstead. They're going to miss. Of course. You don't lose Teron Armstead in your offensive line and say, well, we're better off for it, Yeah. Good riddance. We're better off for not having a top 3 offensive tackle in the NFL right now. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is maybe as a unit, this unit can grow together. And Teron Armstead was also playing with guys, with starters like Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg and Isaiah Wynn. So maybe this unit can thrive together.
Well, let me ask you guys a question last question, and I'll shut up so we can get into the players. But would you guys prefer to have 2 pro bowlers and a bunch of 7th round picks and undrafted free agents, or top 10, top 20 at every position, including 2 or 3 deep?
Yeah, I prefer to have that. I prefer to,
right?
I prefer, and Taylor, we're going to get into some point at what the Dolphins have invested in their offensive line. But I look back to the Cowboys. All right, this was years ago, but in consecutive years they drafted Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Travis Frederick.
Insane.
Now 2 of those guys are going to be Hall of Famers, and Travis Frederick probably would have been a Hall of Famer had it not been for the Guillain-Barré syndrome. That's the kind of investment that you want to see in your offensive line, because that's a front office that gets that your offense is only as good as your offensive line at times. It's great to have a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle running routes for you, but if your quarterback doesn't have enough time to get the ball to them, then what's the point in having those guys in your roster?
Yeah, I look at the offensive and defensive line as like the frame of a car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can have tires and a 1,000 horsepower engine and a sick exhaust and all this, and a lift kit if you have a truck. But if you don't have a frame on the thing, it's useless. Right. Yeah. And if you don't have a good, at least a top, call it 15, 20 offensive line, right, and a top 15 or 20 to 15 defensive line, you're going nowhere. And we're a walking embodiment of that. Just go back and look at the last 5 years, outside of 2013 when we had a decent offensive line,
Yeah.
And Keith, you were talking about Teron Armstead, and he's going to be missed in this locker room and also on the
100%.
Field.
Yeah.
100%. He was one of the best left tackles in the league during his time playing. But something Teron Armstead said himself, and this is to Josh's point, the injuries were getting to him.
Yeah.
Talking about he just physically could not do it anymore.
Practice. He wasn't practicing.
Yeah.
Zero practice.
It was not even possible for him to practice in a game.
Yeah.
It was pretty much, you recovered, all right, it's game time, can you play? And that was pretty much it. So
we saw that interview that he did where he wouldn't be able to walk until what?
Wednesday.
Yeah. That's no way to live. And again, Teron Armstead was a warrior for us. We can't ask anything more of him. So, when he says, I want to retire, you don't have to explain to me why. You don't have to, your reasons are your reasons. Yeah, your reasons are your reasons. But then he got into it in that podcast that he did, and it was like, dude.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're not practicing, you're losing continuity. Now, that is not an indictment on him. Look, like you just said, I could not agree more with the words that just came out of your mouth. Dude, you don't know us a damn thing. You are a fucking warrior.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is Sparta. Have a great day. Right.
Yeah.
But what it does show us is some clarity into maybe why the offensive line didn't gel the way it should have, or the way we thought it would before we got even more decimated with injuries. Right.
Yeah.
And your Cowboys comparison, Keith, I think was a very good one too, because while the Cowboys front office, I do think, have some problems.
Yes.
You know, how long they take to get contracts done is something that I question. But
Michael Parsons endorses that message.
Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, all that. This isn't Cowboys podcast, but something I really do like about their front office, I mean this genuinely, they invest in the trenches.
Yes.
So when they lost Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, all these guys, they went, hey, we can't just go and get 7th round picks. Ironically, they did go and get Robert Jones in free agency.
But he's a depth piece, I think.
Yeah, and they invest in 1st round picks.
Yeah.
And we saw that this year with Tyler Booker, and we saw it last year with, I believe it was Tyler Smith, the tackle from Oklahoma. And they've been trying to rebuild that offensive line. And that's something that, getting into our Dolphins conversation here, we would like the Dolphins to do that. Invest more. Jonah and Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson, who was a 1st-round pick.
And once being said, Taylor, Liam Michelberg as well. He was a 2nd-round pick. But, yeah, you did tee me up, and we are going to start getting into our players right now. So, I'm going to start guys right to left, and I'm going to start with Austin Jackson. I'm going to start with Austin Jackson for a reason, because he is the longest tenured offensive lineman on the Dolphins right now. And throughout many camps, they've kind of said that he's taken on that Teron Armstead role, that leadership type of role that you need along an offensive line. And Austin Jackson, at the ripe old age of 25, has taken on that mantle. So he's going to be the Dolphins starting right tackle this year. We kind of know what we're getting with him. And I think, when it comes to Austin Jackson, and I said this before, Josh, I think he's a good offensive lineman. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's a Pro Bowl caliber offensive lineman, but he's a starting caliber offensive lineman, a guy who's not going to go out there and embarrass you. And it also warrants being said that last year, when Austin Jackson went down with his knee injury, the Dolphins' offensive line kind of imploded. This is something we're going to have to try to avoid going forward. We can't let one injury derail an entire season. But I'm going to turn this over to you, Josh. Talk to us about Austin Jackson.
Yeah, before I get into Austin Jackson, just for those that aren't familiar or haven't watched our kind of positional breakdowns before, the offensive positional breakdowns that we've already done, I'm going to go over kind of a higher level scouting report, if you will, of each player, what college they went to, when they were drafted, how did Miami acquire them, 2024 key stats, last 5 years, where applicable, that kind of stuff, right? Cap hit, contract. I'm going to pass it over to Taylor, and Taylor's going to talk about kind of some injury stuff, snaps played, penalties, sacks allowed, just some really fun statistical stuff. And then, Philly Phins fan here, Keith, is going to wrap us up with each player and just kind of bring it home, and we're going to just open up a conversation about each player, and then we'll move on to the next one and do the same format. All right, so Austin Jackson. To your point, Keith, I mean, crazy to think that he's been the longest tenured player here.
Yeah.
I mean, you just think about it and you're like, and the crazy part is he's been with Miami for 5 seasons, right? I'll get into his contract where we re-upped him and everything like that, but he's only I don't have his age, but he's crazy young still, which is insane to me.
When they drafted him, he was 19.
Right? I mean, it's amazing, right? So we drafted him in 2020, 1st round, pick 18, right? The big 3 1st-round picks that everyone thinks we blew. We just completely screwed up. Right out of USC, right? Been here 5 years, or going into his 5th year or 6th.
Going into his 6th year.
6th year. Yeah, I can do math. We re-upped him in 2023 for a very, very good cost. 3 years. We re-upped him for 3 years, so it gave us 4 years total for $36 million, which is great. His cap hit this year for a key figure on the offensive line is really low. It's $5.7 million, right? And that was due to restructuring. So we converted $9.7 million of his whatever total 2025 cap hit into signing bonus to kick the can down the road to let us have a little bit more breathing room to play around with financially, which I thought was a really smart move. He's not going anywhere, right? Last season in 2024, he played and started the 8 games that he was in before he had his knee injury. Sad. But he's apparently making a really good comeback and he looks really good, or is in the process of looking really good. What did the last 5 years look like? Right. So really, I'm going to talk about 4, right? Because I don't want to talk about 2024. We just kind of went over it. Right. So going all the way back to 2020, right? He played 13. He played in 13 games and started all 13 of those before he went on IR I'm sorry, not before, but he did go on IR in I forgot what week it was, right? So he got injured and then he went on IR. 2021 played in 17, started 17 full season. 2022 he played in 2 games, started 2 games, and went on IR again for an ankle injury. In 2023 he was healthy for the full season. And started all the games that he was in. And then last year he played 8 games with a knee injury, right? So he has been riddled with injuries, right? But, and I guess we'll get into it in a little bit, but Austin Jackson just has me salivating and furious at the same time, right? And I'll leave it there. I'll pass it over to you, Taylor, to continue the conversation, but, we'll see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, so there might be a little bit overlapping here, and all the stats I got here are from either Pro Football Reference or PFF. His 2024 injuries, like Josh said, missed second half of 2024 due to meniscus tear. Like James Daniels, again, this is just my speculation here. It does seem like he's on track to see the field before the regular season, based on what everybody's saying and all that. Getting into the stats now. He had 500 and hold on.
Taylor?
I might have lost these stats.
Okay.
I apologize there. But he had 542 snaps, 312 were passing snaps, 230 were running snaps. He was pretty decent on penalties, pretty decent on sacks allowed, hits allowed, and total pressure. Josh, as you went over, first round pick in 2020, signed that big deal. But yeah, man, he's a pretty good value he's on a pretty good value contract right now, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very team friendly, right?
Even considering the injury history he's had, too, that's another thing. And the thing that we were talking about this off air, and we were also talking about this in the general thoughts on the offensive line video. I think he's a good right tackle. Mm-hmm. Who, when you look at that contract, it kind of like bumps him up to me. And Josh, I know you disagree, but
I mean, I don't disagree with that. He's a good offensive or right tackle or whatever. I'd be curious to hear where you guys arbitrarily rank him, right? Without going into crazy stats and, well, this is why, and this is who. Is he in your mind a 15-ish, a 20-ish, a top 10-ish? Like, where do you guys have him ranked in your heads?
As far as tackles or right tackles?
Right tackle. As a right tackle. That's what he's playing. He's not playing anything else. He's a right tackle.
He's 15 or 16. He's middle of the road.
Yeah.
He's not going to embarrass you. He's not a Liam Eichenberg type of disaster, but no, like he's also not going to give you the transformative type of play that Teron Armstead was giving you on the left side.
No,
which is okay, and you don't need that from every position.
Not at all. I couldn't agree more, right? Because how you guys were teeing this up is, he's in the 20 to 25 range. I think he's a top 15, top 16-ish in that range, right? Which, to your point, is perfect, right? I mean, it's ideally you would like the best right tackle, right? But for what he is and what we're paying him, dude, just stay healthy and be you. Yeah. Be a top 16 right tackle, where there are certain games where you look like a top 10, right? And that's all we ask. And don't screw up.
And also be a trendsetter. Be a leader along that offensive line. Yeah. Be the new Teron Armstead for this offensive line room. That's going to prove to be maybe more invaluable than his play on the field.
Yeah, and I want to make sure our fans understand this. And Keith, I think I can say this, knowing you. When we say collectively, be the new Teron Armstead, we're not saying that he's going to be Teron. Just be the leader.
Be a Pro Bowler.
Be
an All-Pro tackle.
Be the leader in that room. You are, to your point, Keith, he's the longest tenured player. Just be the leader, right? Be the one to hold others accountable. Be the one to stay after and coach. Be the one to stand up and say, I'm the one that made a mistake. Take accountability, show praise. Be that kind of leader, because that's what TA did, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And again, I don't think any of us are under any delusions that he's going to morph into an all-pro type of player like Teron Armstead. I think,
right.
I think we know. I think we're pretty we pretty comfortably know what Austin Jackson is at this stage of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in this league long enough, but I'm good with who he is as a player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with who he is as a person. I think he's a solid, stalwart type of guy for this offensive line. Now, that being said, if he stays healthy, because he has dealt with injuries over his career and over the course of his career. So Taylor, you got in, you're kind of getting into that. Like, tell us about his injury history.
I don't have any more injury history behind the 2024 season, unfortunately. But the thing about Austin Jackson, though, to your conversation here, is he has been a player marred by injuries, and also the beginning of his career, calling a spade, he was bad.
He looked horrible.
Yeah.
He's a late bloomer. Yeah.
Yeah. He going into 2023, I want to say. He was a player that I think a lot of Dolphin fans, including myself, were like, yeah, he's going to be gone. What a bust.
Yep.
Wow, Chris Greer really messed up with this one.
Yeah.
I put him in the same conversation as Eichenberg, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think we all did.
Yeah, he was that bad.
Now,
but unlike Eichenberg, Austin Jackson did turn it around, and Keith, to your point, I think at this point he's played enough for us to go, we know what he is as a player. Sure, he can play a little up, a little down from that, but I'm not expecting him to be like going out there with that contract and absolutely underperforming. It's just not the kind of player he is.
Now, once being said that going into his rookie season, he had given bone marrow to his sister. He donated, and that kind of took a lot out of him. And I think that people underrate how much that takes out of people. That's a huge donation that kind of put him behind the eight ball throughout his rookie season. And then throughout 2021, 2022, the Dolphins were trying him out at different positions rather than letting him settle into a position of his own. It wasn't until 2023 when the Dolphins put him at right tackle and, left him alone at right tackle where he really started to blossom and had his first healthy season for the Miami Dolphins. In 2024, we saw more of the same until his injury. Now, injuries happen, and I'm not putting that on him or whatever, but I do want to see, because it is going to be time for an extension before long with him. Before long, there's going to be talks of an extension with Austin Jackson. I need to see more healthy seasons from him before I give him an extension.
Yeah,
because I can't have my right tackle missing 8-9 games a season and just being cool with that.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I just looked this up quickly because I was curious. Since 2020, Austin Jackson has been flagged for 26 penalties total, right? And they've gone down. So he only started a handful of games his rookie year, right? But 2021, he had 13 penalties, right?
Yeah.
2022, he had none. I think he had one. I think is what it says. Yeah, one. 2023, he had 5. 2024, he had 6. Right.
Yeah.
So if he can stay in that 5-6 range for the season, but he's playing all games, okay, cool. You're a top 15 right tackle. That's all we need, bro. If we end the season with the top 15 offensive line, like the 15th ranked offensive line, I will be ecstatic.
It's a huge success,
right?
Yeah, it is. It is, and I think that puts the Dolphins in the hunt for the division. If Tua stays healthy, that puts the Dolphins in the hunt. This puts them in the conversation for contenders within the AFC, within a loaded AFC. Whole that AFC as a whole is just a murderer's
Ugh,
row of teams.
Yeah.
But
the minute we get a quarterback, it turns into murder's row.
But
when we didn't have a quarterback, right, it was a cakewalk.
Yeah, it was Tom Brady and nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, nobody else. But, Zach Thomas kind of said it best where, they interviewed him earlier on in the week and he said that this is a Dolphins team that can surprise some people.
Mm-hmm.
And we can. This offensive line stays healthy. This offensive line gives us, top half of the league performance. Then we can make some noise in the AFC. It starts with Austin Jackson because Austin Jackson is the de facto leader of this offensive line, the elder statesman of this offensive line. And then we're going to go from Austin Jackson to the young guy, the rookie, Jonah Savaiinaea. Yes, I got it right that time.
You nailed it.
Rookie second round pick out of Arizona. I think he's a pick that we're all really excited for. We saw him throughout mini camp, throughout OTAs, and he looked really good. I think everybody was singing his praises. So, Josh, talk to us about Jonah.
Yeah, Mr. Savaiinaea, right, out of Arizona, drafted him in the second round, pick 37, right? I don't have what we traded for him. I know it was substantial. In the moment, some of us were not too thrilled.
Some swaps, some pick swaps, the third.
Some of us were not too thrilled with what we gave up, given where the strength of that draft was, right? But what I loved about it was we saw a player and we didn't wait. No matter how you feel about what the cost was to go up and get our guy, right? Mm-hmm. Our front office saw a guy, put our heads down, said, take what you need. I'm going to get him. They made the effort, which means they believe in the player, right? Which I love, because that means that player, irregardless of how anyone feels about him, is going to get enough opportunity to make a difference. And I personally think that I think this was clearly a first round talent. I mean, it's not even close, right? He was in the top 5 offensive linemen on my big board, on my top 100. I forgot where I had him ranked. I should have wrote that down, but number of years, obviously he's a rookie, right? So I don't have, there is no digit there. He has not signed his rookie deal yet. And, Houston really screwed everyone. So shame on you, Houston Texans.
And Cleveland.
But Houston did it first.
Yes,
right?
they did.
Houston did it first. We can all forgive Cleveland for being Cleveland. That's what Cleveland does. They make boneheaded moves. Houston set the tone, right? Yeah. And it just so happens that the player that they set the tone with, and for those of you that aren't aware, Houston decided that, hey, it would be a great idea to give our second round pick at pick 36, mind you, the one pick ahead of where Jonah was taken. We're going to, or something close to that. We're going to give him a fully guaranteed contract. So now our second round pick, Jonah has, and I'm all for get your money, right? So I don't blame him.
Yeah.
But now we're stuck waiting for him to sign the contract. Now the good news is he's practicing, right? He was in OTE, not OTAs. Sorry, minicamp and voluntary something or other.
Well, voluntary and mandatory OTAs. He was
there. It is. So I don't have a cap hit number yet, but it'll be whatever it is, right? I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. And that's kind of, you touched on that, Josh. Mm-hmm. No second round picks outside of Carson Schlesinger and Jaden Higgins have signed with their respective teams because of this fully guaranteed deal that was given to Jaden Higgins by the Texans. So there's kind of just a staring contest between all these second round picks and their agents versus the various front offices who drafted these guys. It's just a matter of which side blinks first.
Exactly.
If the Dolphins cave and just give Jonah Savaiinaea a fully guaranteed deal, then the rest of the owners are going to sigh and be like, okay, I guess
then there's more precedent. Yep. Yeah. And then our next year second round pick, irregardless of how we feel about him, or however many we end up having, should we trade?
Yeah.
Then they're all going to want. It's just crazy to me. Right. I will say at least we don't have Shamar Stewart. Anyways, So for the kind of last 5-year key stats, right? I had to go back to college for him. So I didn't do stats because that's boring for college players. He started a lot of games. He played a lot of games. He was freaking good. I am ecstatic that this mountain of a human being is on our team. I also think it's really cool, by the way, for those of you that don't know or that have been under a rock, he's actually related to Tua from, I think they're cousins or distant cousins. I mean, or whatever the case is. So very excited about that. You know, watching his interview and the draft tape of his whole family reacting. This is where he wants to be. This is where he should be. This is where he was destined to be. And he's going to protect Unc, right? So he was all Pac-10, 12 honorable mentions in 2023. In 2022, he was the freshman All-American, right? Those are kind of the big things that I have from him from college because, like I said, college, sure, great. He started a lot of games. He played a lot of games. He was healthy. Didn't have many injuries. He's awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah. Taylor, talk to us about Mr. Savaiinaea.
Nailed it.
All right. So the good thing is he's a rookie, so I don't have anything for him in the 2024 season. But what I can talk about is his versatility and the way he kind of just, as Josh, you were kind of alluding to, well, he can just come in and be a leader off the bat. This is a guy who will play right guard, left tackle if it needs to be. Even if he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, he will do it for the good of the team. He's a guy who will go downfield, make a thunderous hit just to set the tone for the offense. Now, I do think he struggles a bit in pass blocking a bit, and I'm not sure he was in the best scheme over at Arizona. What's good, though, is considering Miami, this West Coast zone scheme, he's going to fit in like a glove. Like, this is 330. He somehow moves like he's about Aaron Brewer's weight. I don't really understand it. And that power he has, or not the power, but his speed he has, power is kind of the problem with his game. But hopefully he gets in the weight room, gets a bit better with it. But, yeah, man, this is one hell of a player that I'm probably the most excited I've been about offensive lineman in quite some time.
Yeah. I agree with what Josh said that he's, was a top 5 offensive lineman. I think the reason he fell was because teams didn't see him as a tackle. They saw him as a guard. And I see him as a guard. And to your point, Taylor, he doesn't play with maybe as much power as you might want.
Yeah. He also struggles against power. I've noticed. This was something we were talking about in the draft process. It's like you're looking at a guy who's like in the 330s, and the kind of player he is, you expect him to be this like mauler.
Yeah.
Like, which he is, but it's more so because he gets it done with the speed and because he's intelligent. He plays with that football awareness. So if you get him in a weight room, get him a little more, a little more powerful. Man, I'm really excited for the potential of this player.
Yeah. I think he's a guy we're all looking forward to seeing on the field protecting Tua for the next decade. That's the kind of potential this guy has
for sure.
So I'm super excited. Do you guys have anything else on Mr. Savaiinaea?
I mean, and I don't know if this is just me living in the moment. So for those of you that are watching this, don't crucify me too much when I say this, but I mean, I genuinely believe, again, like we said at the start of the show, there's a lot of ifs, right? If this man stays healthy and he progresses the way I think he progresses, right, in this league, I think he has Pro Bowl potential. Yeah. I'm not saying he will be a Pro Bowler. I'm not saying he will be a Hall of Famer or anything like that. I'm just saying he has Pro Bowl potential, right?
Yeah. I got a question for you guys.
Hit me.
Maybe I could have held this off for Patrick Paul, but who do you guys have more faith in? Jonah or Patrick Paul? Like, I'm talking about not just like faith to be like a starter. I'm saying in terms of ceiling.
Well, that's hard because I know I've seen Patrick Paul play against grown men in the NFL. I have not seen Jonah yet. So for me right now, it would be Patrick Paul for the simple fact that I've seen him play 83 snaps and he did well more so than he did poorly. And he learned behind, in my opinion, a borderline Hall of Famer left tackle, probably a second ballot, third ballot type Hall of Famer in Teron Armstead. I don't know. That can be a whole nother show if we think TA is going to make the Hall of Fame. But he learned behind him. And the fact, and I know a lot of fans, I've gotten into discussions, we'll call them discussions with fans, on Teron Armstead and his interviews and what he says on them. Well, of course he's got to say it. No, he doesn't. Dude's retired. He has no, he could say Mike McDaniel's garbage, the Dolphins suck, F off, I'm out. But
in fairness, though, Josh, that's not who Teron Armstead is. He's not going to turn.
Nope.
He's not going to turn around and.
But he could choose not to.
That's true.
Right? I mean, he doesn't have to say something.
Yes.
And the fact that he's coming out and he's praising Patrick Paul, there's a reason for that. They see a lot more than we do. You know what I mean? And I think that's what gets me excited about Patrick Paul is the fact that he learned behind one of the best to do it. And one of the best to do it has come out and actively said, this dude has what it takes. He's got the work ethic. He's got the leadership abilities. He's got the physical tools. He's got the skill. He needs to continue to work on his craft. He needs to continue to get stronger, but he has what it takes.
Yeah.
My heart.
Yes, what about you?
Well, my heart says Jonah. My head says Patrick. How's that?
I'll say this, Taylor, and I think this is actually, I think Jonah is closer to being that Pro Bowl caliber player right now than Patrick Paul is. It seems kind of strange to say this about a 24, 25-year-old tackle, but he's still raw. He still has a lot of learning to do. He still has a lot of seasoning that needs to get done with him before we can talk about him being a quote-unquote Pro Bowl caliber player. And that's not something I see in Jonah Savaiinaea. I think with Jonah, I think you're going to come in, you're going to see a more polished player. Maybe he won't be as great against the power rushers of, Ed Oliver or I can't think of another guy.
Insert another big fat guy.
Yeah. Maybe he won't be as great against those guys, but I think he'll learn, and I think you'll see more progression from him. Whereas I think with Patrick Paul, there's going to be some growing pains this season, and we're going to roll our eyes. Patrick Paul is going to commit a holding penalty against an edge rusher, or he's going to give up a sack that's going to make a set that's going to kill a drive. And we're going to say, yo, Patrick, what are you, whereas I think Jonah Savaiinaea is probably going to be a little more anonymous this year. We're not going to see as much from him.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. Like you said, Josh.
What you want. Yeah.
I will say this, though. I think Jonah's floor and his ceiling are higher than Patrick Paul's.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now that is not a slight on Patrick Paul. That's more of an indictment on how much I like Jonah at the guard position. You know what I mean? But I think from an athletic standpoint, I think Patrick Paul has more tools to be successful at a higher visible position of need at the left tackle position.
Yeah. I would more so agree with Keith, especially because we talked about Austin Jackson earlier and how it took him a few years. Feels like Patrick Paul's more in that line. It's like it's going to take him a few years to become whatever he's going to become. With Jonah, it does feel like whether it's good or maybe I'm wrong and we're all three wrong here, Jonah ends up not being a great player. I think we will find that out sooner rather than later just because of the way, this player is. Yeah. And the reason I brought this up too is talking about the level of investment. These are 2 premium picks, not first round, of course, but second round picks trading up for Jonah, especially.
So, did we trade up for Patrick too? Did we trade up for Patrick? Or did we just take him?
I believe Miami just stuck it.
Stick and pick?
Or that.
Yeah.
50-something?
55. Yeah, it was Jonah was second round 37. Paul was second round 55.
And again, we're talking about a guy with his size and his skill set, but he's raw. And he's also an older he's a second-year player, and he's probably, 24, 25 years old. So he's older than...
Is he that old?
Yeah, he is.
Wow.
And that's the thing. Like, you have a raw player at that age, you really want to see him be a little further along in his progression. He's not. And that's
I don't
okay.
think you can give him as long of a leash as like Austin Jackson yet.
No, but
because
also
Austin Jackson came in at 19, 20, as you were talking about, and I don't think you can really like if Paul struggles, and we'll get into Patrick Paul later.
What are your
really
options?
That's part of the problem, Josh.
I mean,
there's not really any options.
He's a 23-year-old second-round player that has the potential, but again, he also played at Houston, and that's not a slight on Houston, but Jonah played in Arizona. They played some dogs on the other side, right? Houston, not so much. So that's why I think we can all agree Jonah's floor is substantially higher than Paul, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And his ceiling is probably a little higher than Paul. I just think, to your guys' point, Paul's playing at a position that's much more visible and much harder to learn, which I think was a huge benefit to him that he really didn't play much last year. He got to kind of digest the NFL, you know.
And it's also, you know, it's fair to compare him to Austin Jackson, but it's also unfair because Patrick Paul they put him at left tackle. They are keeping him at left tackle. Yeah, he played a couple snaps at right tackle last year, but no, you're the left tackle here in Miami. Whereas with Austin Jackson, the Dolphins kind of messed with him a little bit.
The first 2 or 3 seasons, right, Keith? He was like playing center. He was playing left tackle, right guard, or right tackle. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Similar to Liam Eichenberg, which is a vastly different outcome, hopefully, than Patrick Paul and Jonah. But either way, I thought it was an interesting conversation because these are 2 young players that are premium picks and will most likely be starters come week 1.
Well, let me ask you guys one more question. Let me ask you guys one more question about these 2. Which one of these do you think would be here 10 years from now? Assuming one of them progresses to the point where they're a 10-year starter. Who do you think that 10-year starter is?
I'll always give the nod to the guard in that position.
Me too.
Same.
Me too. Yep. So Jonah sweep.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys like what you saw tonight, we're going to get into centers and we're going to get into the other positions. I know we talked a lot about Patrick Paul. We're going to get into him in the next episode. But if you guys like what you saw tonight, please like, subscribe, leave comments. What do you think about Jonah Savaiinaea? What do you think about Austin Jackson moving forward? What do you think about the Dolphins' offensive line as a whole in general moving forward? And you know, I think we'd all be interested to know that. I think
absolutely.
You know, so look, again, leave comments, like, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.